Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There's a visitor's guest list. Hopefully everyone has signed it. I'm looking for approval of the minutes from October 10th. No, that's not right.
November 14th.
November 14th. Okay.
I move to approve the minutes of the November 14th, 2022 regular board meeting.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the November 14th regular board meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I may have to have that agenda. No, I'm not. This is the.
Yeah, so go to home. Go to home. I'll just walk you through it. Go to home. If you're, and then the green one's going to be the Jan 9.
Okay, we'll continue with this. Okay, prioritize agenda, Mr. Drill.
I think we're good to go right straight down the line. Welcome to January. But, we don't have any student groups this evening, okay. So we should be okay.
Okay, all right. I think I'm there.
Good.
Okay. Superintendent's report, Mr. Drill. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Happy New Year. Welcome back. I guess after one half of the national championship game, we can move on with the day. That's unfortunate. We are getting ready to move into the legislative session, which in and of itself is not that big of a deal. Unfortunately for schools, particularly K-12 education, becomes a very big deal. Because at the end of, by the end of June, they will set the budget for K-12 education across the state. The legislative fiscal office set the budget at $9.52 billion, which is only a 2.3% increase from the $9.3 billion that it did this last biennium, which we're wrapping up in right now. That's a 2.3% increase over 2 years. I don't know about you guys, but I think things have gone up a little more than 1.15% per year in the last few months. That's a problem for K-12. The downside for the state is they don't have a lot more money to deal with. As much money as came in over the last 2 years, they see not so much a cliff, but a very steep downward trend with regard to finance. So educators across the state, all organizations, OEA, OSEA, both of our associations we work with, COSA, the administrative group, OSBA, the School Boards Association you guys work with, and a couple other groups are working together already behind the scenes to try to talk with legislators, and then officially when the legislature starts around February 1st, we will begin to advocate for more money for schools. That unfortunately is in competition with housing and homelessness and all the other issues, health and safety, fire, police, all those other kinds of things. So it's going to be an interesting ride from now until July 1st, when they've got to be done right near the end of June by state law. So we are hopeful that the legislators will listen to OASBO. OASBO is an offshoot of COSA, which is all the business managers who basically ran all their numbers and said, if you wanted to roll up costs for school and you ran those numbers, you need $10.3 billion. And so I know that different organizations have been working with the governor-elect's office, which is now the governor, and a number of other legislators' offices. They do that by specifically targeting which legislators are in specific school districts. So we're going to be working with that. I know that I told you I'm the president of the COSA group this year for the state. So I'll be at the legislature having conversations with folks, trying to remind people, particularly that kids today, 2023, definitely need a lot more than what kids needed in 2017 or 2014 or things like that. We see, and our educators see, all of our folks see all the additional needs. At the same time, however, K-12 across the state of Oregon has lost about 30,000 kids from pre-pandemic times. So one of the reasons why the Legislative Fiscal Office said you need less money is because there's fewer kids. So that sounds good. The problem is if we took a circle and said, this is what a 2017 kid needs, right? You probably need a circle like this to say what a 2023 kid needs, regardless of what grade. So there's an interesting set of conversations going on. So we're going to work at that.
Darren, where'd those 30,000 kids go?
They left the system during COVID. Some of them haven't come back.
Just flat dropped out.
Some have dropped out. Some have moved, right? And then there's another thing that a lot of people don't talk about, which is there are fewer kids actually just entering the system. 6 or 7 years ago, when babies showed up, there were fewer of them per capita than there used to be. So they're wondering if there'll be a trend that pops back up over time. But a lot of states have lost kids. A lot of folks talk about public schools are going in the wrong direction. But as you guys know, in this district, we've actually gained students. So that's not always the case. So we'll watch that carefully and see what happens. As I mentioned about enrollment, our enrollment continues to hold. As of last week, we had 2,697 kids across our district. That is 130 kids more than we had at this time last year. And that's about 210 more kids than we had 2 years ago. We believe that that's an amazing statistic, by the way, for somebody our size. And at the same time, back in 2012 and 13, we were running about 10% of kids that were inter-district transfers, kids that came from other school districts to come here. We're down to 2.9%. So what you guys have asked us to do is quit letting so many kids in because it crowds our school district. At the same time, what's happening is people are moving here. So that's a fairly interesting process. So we're watching that carefully as well. The final thing is we are now done with the modular construction. We've got a few minor things to do at Cloverdale around the outside. It got to be wintertime. And Mr. Dyer has reminded me repeatedly, we still need storage. He is not shy about that. I appreciate that, actually. So are you talking to it over there? It's on? Okay, it's good. So we're in the process of dealing with that, making sure that we now turn our attention to some sort of a modular process here on this campus, along with our seismic grant, which we're waiting to find out if we'll get. That seismic grant will be for the old high school gym and the area around it. You know, every year, as Scott Pillar has talked about, we go through a process to make sure that we get the highest rated building that needs the most help. We have gone through that process. We have done Cloverdale. We've done Turner. We did the junior high 6th grade wing this last year. If we get a seismic grant, and it looks like odds are good that we will probably not know until April. It is unlikely we'll be able to secure the right kind of building supplies and all the workers we need to do it by July. It'll probably be the following July when we get it done. So, and then the last piece I have for you tonight is lots of conversation, particularly in the Turner area, around the sale of the state land, heading out of Turner, past Crawford Crossing, up the hill, like you're heading in past the state penitentiary system. And we did get some information. A good portion of that land is in our school district boundary. I had all kinds of questions like, well, Salem will just take that from you, right? No, it's not how that works. It's actually built, school district boundaries were built almost 100 years ago. And so there's different ways to deal with that process. What's unique about the piece of land is that is within the Salem boundaries for the city of Salem growth boundary. But part of that land is in this Cascade school district boundary. So there's two different boundaries going on inside Marion County dealing with that process. It's a little bit interesting. I asked Mr. Costello to kind of look into that. And he's got a quick comment for you to give you an update about that. But what we will make sure is that you have the information as we go forward. Greg, can you wrap up my report for me?
Sure, you bet.
Can you do me a favor though? Can you come up to this table? Otherwise, these guys are going to remind me, and then people can't hear you on the record when they're watching. Thank you.
So what we started with when Mr. Jill brought this to me, he had some contacts from the Salem Kaiser School District for city planners. So made some connection with the city planners to see where we were. And then they referred me to a woman who was working for the consulting firm that is helping the developmental organization who's doing this. And the bottom line is we're a long ways away from shovels in the ground. The land is currently actually still owned by the state. It's Clutch Industries who is purchasing it, but they're going through the process of They've submitted for a zone change and for a subdivision of the large lot into 5 pieces, which would then be further subdivided when they actually build. Those were not approved by the city of Salem. The city of Salem asked for more information, including a traffic impact study and some other details like that. It looks like they are hoping that I tried to ask all the different folks, like, what are we talking numbers of units? And they said it's all way too early for that because it's going to depend on the permitting. It's going to depend on the traffic studies, how much they build. But the basic idea is kind of on the uphill side of the road, they're going to build single family housings. And then on the other side of the road, they'll be doing kind of apartments or other kinds of mixed use things like that. I am trying to schedule a meeting with this woman who's the consultant in the next couple of weeks, just to like be face to face and say, hey, we want to stay in contact. We want to know what's going on. And they've been really good about working with us. So bottom line is it's going to be a ways before stuff is actually built. And as we get more information, we'll make sure I get that to you.
Okay, so
Any questions for?
I had a quick question. So when you say shovel on the ground, are we talking 2 years? Are we talking 8 years? Or
Yeah.
this is worrisome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I asked that question and they were not giving me any answers. What they said is there's going to need to be a lot of infrastructure work once the permits are planned. So that's the work that has to take first, where there's kind of arguing between the city and the developer of who's paying for what. And then the actual development of the units usually comes in phases with a big project like that. And it's usually highly dependent on the economy. The way things are looking right now, nobody would go on the record at all about timing, but they were saying it's probably going to be a bit. So that's kind of all I know at this point. I'm hoping face-to-face meeting will give me a better idea.
Is any of that like in the floodplain? Can we claim that flattish part that's in the 100-year floodplain so they can't build on that?
That's all part of their permit documents that they've done. And what's interesting is I overlaid kind of their basic outline for the permit request with our school district boundaries. Mm-hmm. And the floodplain stuff is all outside of our school district that they're kind of designating as that. So the building is likely going to take place on our school district.
Okay.
Land.
Okay.
We're watching carefully.
I know.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Any other questions for me?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Finance Director's report, Mr. Drill.
Yep. So as I said, Mr. Pillar is out this evening. He has not only his written report, but also the financial update report. He basically wanted me to remind you that on the revenue side, things are looking good. Taxes have been collected in the right way. And also on our expenditure side, we're up a little bit, mostly around increases in utilities. That's a big uptick, about 20% increase. We anticipated it going up. I don't think we anticipated 20%, but we anticipated in the dual digits. So we were thinking somewhere between 12 to 17%. And we are up in salaries and benefits by about 7.5%. We figured it'd be about 6%. So we're not that far off in the process. So we're doing well, and we're within the margins of error, for lack of a better term. If you have additional questions, feel free to ask me now, or you can always email Mr. Miller. Questions?
The 20%, is that usage, or is that an increase from?
Cost is the biggest part of it. We've used a little bit more than normal, but the cost of those utilities, the cost per kilowatt hour, whatever it costs,
gone up. Yeah.
Yep. Great question.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Drill. Special Service Director's report, Ms. Johnson.
I get to the hot seat. You have my report in front of you. I wanted to highlight a few things on it and then talk a little bit more about compliance. So as you see, our census data came out to about 413 students who were qualified as of December 1st for special education, which is an increase from last year at the same time of 379. We have about 20 to 25 kids still in the hopper, and my projection is we hit about 450 students in special education this school year.
So that means they're in there even just for one course, not full time, but they use special ed for some amount.
Yep, it could be as something as they only see a speech language pathologist for 60 minutes a month and they have articulation.
But they're still counted in that head count.
Yes.
And it looks like simple math, it's about 15% of the student body uses that to some
Yeah,
degree.
we kind of fluctuate anywhere between 15 and 16%.
Okay.
And with that, so Mr. Jill talked about the amount of students we have moving in and families moving in. We have families that are also moving in because of our special education programs. I think I spoke at the last board meeting where we talked about we have specialized programs and other school districts are starting to dismantle their specialized programs. So they're coming here, which then creates an interesting dynamic that our programs are full. And so when Mr. Drill sees me come in and I say, you know, I don't ever ask for something we don't need, right? I always go to him and say, if I'm asking for a staff member, it's because I've exhausted all other options and this is what the student needs. And I have had to come to him a couple of times this school year and say, this student really is requiring a one-on-one. Or for example, my life skills classroom at the secondary level is at 26 kids and I only have 6 staff in there. And these are high need students. And so that's when I've gone to him a couple of times, but I've also done a little bit of a puzzle making, which my ladies, they can attest to my puzzle making to make things work. But the good news is that we were awarded a $35,000 grant for supplies and equipment. And I opened that up right before winter break. And so that was kind of a nice surprise because I forgot that I applied for it all the way in September and then bam, it was there. So that was exciting. And that equipment will be actually used for all the different buildings are allotted a certain amount of money. And I'm going to be using it at our lower levels for our behavior classroom, our life skills classroom, and our autism program. And at Turner and Cloverdale, they're allotted money also. So I'm going to use that money to help support sensory needs and equipment and curriculum. And then at our high school, junior high, the same thing, equipment and curriculum. Then the third thing on there is acknowledging our nurses. Our nurses, they truly do so much for our district that we don't actually get to see very often. They are working, I have a 101 nurse who works with a very high needs student. It's very complex, all the way to Band-Aids and boo-boos and stomach aches and being thrown up on and being, right? But these ladies go out of their way to also support our families. They're on the phone with families on a regular basis, checking in, giving them resources, how they can support them. And they're an unsung hero in our community. And a Cascade family, and we are very fortunate to have the nursing staff that we have, and I want to say thank you because you are a big piece of that also. We have 3 LPNs and 1 RN, and in a district our size, we're very fortunate to have high quality, that many of them, and they are amazing ladies. And lastly, a shout out to my entire special education staff. I have been in and out with the family emergency and they are amazing. Your admin, but my special ed teachers in every single building in our staff, not very many directors can go out for 2 weeks and come back to just smooth ground. And that's them. That's the hard work that they put in. They knew I was out, and Judy Henshaw, who is right there, man, she filled in at the drop of a hat. I didn't even have to ask her, she just did it. So I just want to say thank you to my staff, but thank you to you guys for allowing me to hire such great staff. So thank you. Any questions for me?
I do have a question. I know you've said a couple times that a lot of school districts are dismantling their special ed. Is there a push from the state to dismantle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I was able to kind of confirm that too. I have a really good relationship with my county contact at ODE. His name is Jeremy Wells. And I asked him some very specific questions about, I see this push coming from ODE. Is it just me or is that happening? He said, yes, that's going to be starting to push. It's full inclusion for all kids, which full inclusion sounds wonderful, but when you look at a spectrum of kids and what they need, not every kid should be in a general education math class when they have needs that might be something different. And so really kind of doing a full spectrum and a full continuum of placement options is really important for our kids.
So how are we going to avoid that?
Right.
How am I going to avoid it? Well, I've already started. So I've actually invited ODE to come to my programs to see the good things that are happening for kids in our district.
Okay.
That was my first step. And Jeremy will actually be out here at the end of January, the beginning of February, and then I'll keep going from there.
Okay.
So what's the timeline for this? When's the?
It won't happen quickly. One, there's what's called IDEA law and continuum placement options. We have to, by law, provide a continuum of placement option.
Mhm.
And when ODE starts saying, well, those are segregated classrooms and you can't do that, it actually goes against IDEA. So there'll have to be several different things that come into play, but if you can, I'm a forward thinker and I can see the writing on the wall. So just preparing for it.
Okay.
2 years, 20 years?
It could be 5, it could be 10.
Could be 2.
I don't think it'll be 2.
Okay.
Or it could change.
Right.
Backtrack.
Yes.
Hopefully.
And then I almost forgot the last thing we just had to do. I had to do what's called SPR&I, the file review. I had to pull 40 random files and pull together a team and go through a list of compliance tasks. And it took several hours. Judy was on that team also. And we had 2 errors out of 40 files. And that 40 is basically times 3 because you're having to go through different questionnaires. And there was 2 very minor errors. They weren't egregious. They're easily fixable. And again, that comes to the testament of my staff.
Wow.
So.
Great. Congratulations. Yeah. Good job.
Anything
So
else?
I want to go back to these numbers real quick.
Yeah.
So we've got 413 kids that use special services to some degree.
Yes.
Can you roughly, I'm not asking for an exact number, can you tell me how many kids use exclusively special services out of that 413, or are all the kids in non-special service classes also?
So well, let me kind of back up. So I can give you the number of kids I have in my specialized programs right off the top of my head.
Okay.
But all kids are general education kids first who receive special education services.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. And all of our kids spend some amount of time in general education unless their behaviors preclude them. So
Okay.
that's my behavior students,
Okay.
which that is about 7 kids in the entire district.
But that's behavior based.
Yes.
Okay.
That's 4 of them are in an outside placement at Oasis and McMinnville.
Okay.
So they don't have an opportunity to go into gen ed classes.
Right.
It's just a specialized program. Then I have 2 students that are in a behavior program here that are fully self-contained.
Okay.
After that, every single kid accesses some kind of general education,
Okay.
whether it's specials, library, lunch, recess, etc.
Right.
At the elementary level, I have I want to say 22 students who are accessing my specialized programs. And up here, I have a caseload of 26 in my life skills classroom and a caseload of 12 over at my behavior room.
Okay. So that's about 60, 65-ish. Okay, fair enough. That was my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
Anything else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Food service director's report. Mr. Pachi.
Hi, nice
Hi.
to meet you guys. Been
Welcome.
here for a while, just took me a while to get here.
It's okay. You're here now.
So yeah, thank you for having me. Nice to meet y'all. You have my report in front of you, and they wanted me just to go over a couple things, and then obviously I'll be available for your questions. School food service continues to have challenges. During COVID, there was all kinds of supply chain stuff. It's a lot better than it was, but we're still having some issues. Most recent issue I can give you is Cascade Produce, our local produce vendor, actually shut down operations right before we came back to school. They closed business, they're done. So I thought I had a heads up on this from another produce vendor who alerted me to this. Other than that, I had no word from Cascade Produce at all. And they were like, hey, we heard this, can we help you? So that's how I had noticed. And so then I thought I was clever and smart, and I placed an order through US Foods, tacking on, they're our broadline distributor. And I tacked on produce, thinking, oh yeah, I'm ahead of the game. Well, then here comes the first day of school. It's supposed to be US Foods delivery day. And US Foods emails me and says, our trucks aren't leaving for your district day. So we had very little produce on the first day of school. And I ended up going to the US Food store in South Commercial for the second day and just buying produce for the whole district because I just couldn't go there. I had to have something on the plates for the kids. So US Foods did show up the next day with produce, and I do have another produce vendor lined up. So they've already started delivering that to us this week. So we're good there. But I'm just letting you guys know that there's still issues and we're just working through the challenges as they come.
How many vendors do you have to choose from? Are you limited by who
Yes.
you can buy from?
Yeah, we have to do competitive quotes because we're using federal funding.
Right.
So I actually awarded to a secondary bidder for that bid last time, and that was United Produce at Portland.
Mm-hmm. And that was the backup when the Cascade one.
Yeah. And they're actually already our DoD fresh produce vendor, which is a part of the USDA program. So it just made sense to tack on because they're already coming to our district. So
how do you get around that when you go to you said you went to South Commercial and bought foods? How do you get around the bidding process?
That's a micro procurement. Anything under 10,000, you can award as a micro procurement.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, all kinds of fun procurement rules.
Nice. Okay.
Yep. Anything else on that? Just dealing with it as it comes.
Thank you.
We're continuing to improve the meal quality and variety in Cascade School District. Hope you guys have heard about some of the new menu items. Participation is going pretty good considering we do not have a universal feeding anymore. So we beefed up the salad bars. We were making a few more homemade items. We're doing some healthier fare, doing some salads and some parfaits and some things like that. Kids are really enjoying them. We're continuing to invest in marketing and making the food service areas more kid friendly, filling the signage and graphics, trying to do some upgrades and stuff as inexpensively as we can. Obviously we don't have funds to remodel or things like that. So we're just kind of doing what we can with what we got. Also want to let you guys know we have a fun ODE child nutrition audit February 14th and 15th. They will be on site to review our program. They do that every 3 years. There's a bit of a pause during COVID, but they're back on site doing full reviews. So they'll be reviewing everything we do from menu planning to financial management. They'll be even asking stock questions about how.
Did you refer to that as a fun audit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
I actually worked for ODE once, so I used to be in the position. So
I see.
yeah, it's pretty fun.
All right. I see.
Right? So looking forward to getting through that and coming out successful on the other end. I've included an update to the participation figures for the 2 non-CEP schools. Darren has been relaying information to you throughout the school year, correct?
Yeah, we've been talking about the schools.
So November was actually down a little bit more than October was year to year at the 2 non-CEP schools. I don't have an explanation for it other than I think there's a lot of sick kids. I know that. So I think there's some attendance issues. So I don't know if it had anything to do with food service necessarily. But if you look at the participation figures, Turner breakfast is down the most. And it is what it is, being that you're not back on the regular free reduced paid program. So, and I believe we gave you estimates about what it would cost, if you chose to subsidize that, and those figures are still true. So,
Where are we at in the balance sheet right now? What is, how in the red are we with the food
well,
service?
for this year, I figure we're going to be out about a break even.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, we do have a surplus though from the two COVID years. We do have a surplus left over from that. But I figured this year we're going to be at about a break even.
Okay.
Because we have 3 schools on CEP, 3 schools not on CEP. And CEP schools are doing really well, as you guys can probably imagine.
Like making money or like break even?
They're breaking even.
Okay.
They might even be pulling ahead a little
and we
bit.
Lose on the schools that they have to pay at?
Well, not per se. That's where.
But there's not as many meals going out the door.
Correct. Yeah. So paid lunch equity. So the feds have this rule called paid lunch equity. You actually have to charge for lunch,
even if a kid doesn't take it.
Well, if a kid buys lunch and he's paid, he's not free or reduced, or he or she is
right.
Then they have to pay. You have to charge. The feds don't let you not charge.
Okay.
And if you don't charge enough, then there's this. I actually brought a copy of it, but if you don't charge enough, then they make you subsidize it and do a general fund transfer from the school district into the food service fund to make up for that, because they don't want free and reduced reimbursement subsidizing paid meals, because paid is technically a means tested program. So if you can't afford meals, that's when you apply for
Right.
reduced meals.
Right.
Right.
So that's the federal rule.
Okay.
Breakfast, you are allowed to absorb the loss from that, but there's a ODE directive on that too. And it says, if you choose to do that, you can do that. But if you end up losing money or meal quality suffers or something like that, then basically a general fund transfer from the district would be required for that as well.
Have we ever had to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We have before.
Yeah.
So as Chris starts to talk to you about the details, right? There'll be a test later for all 5 of you. You should remember what you just said. And I have said to you, right, I have tried over the years to dig into those requirements, and I've given up. I cannot fully understand the Fed's concept about how they process the whole thing. And I challenge anybody in this room to read through it and figure it out. But the upside of it is, I know Chris, because of his years at ODE, truly understands that process. I mostly understand what he says, but there are parts of it I'm like, that part just didn't even make sense to me. But he does understand the process. We have been able to, for the most part, get ahead of the game in certain areas because, like, for example, we talked earlier this year about somehow, some way we got Cloverdale onto the free CEP program, but unfortunately not Turner. So what he did was he tied Almsville, which is our lowest SES, he tied Almsville to Cloverdale, which allowed them to be able to make that happen. When he tried to tie Turner to it, between Turner and Almsville, they were too big, it popped above the line. So he sat down and figured out a way to readjust it.
It's a numbers game. CEP is based on, you can either do a site qualification, you can do a school grouping, cluster schools together, or you can do district wide. However you decide to group them has to be over 40% identified student percentage. Identified student percentage comes almost entirely from SNAP data from the state. Then you add in foster, homeless, and migrant from the local liaisons. So you add those in. And if you're not above 40% of your enrollment, then you can't participate. So when you added in Almsville, with Almsville and Cascade Opportunity Center, anytime you added in any other school besides Cloverdale, it put it below the threshold for non-participation. So it was either have some schools benefit and some families benefit, or nobody benefited. If that makes sense.
So he came to me and had this conversation with me, and I look like you all do right now.
Yeah.
And then he said, look, I figured out this is how this is going to work. I've done these 19 different calculations. I've rearranged them. I've taken, I don't know, some level of math I've never understood before. Thank God I was a social studies teacher. And at the end of the day, this is how he pulled it out to make sure we do that. So we have as many kids as we can on that program. And he wants to continue to bring you the information about the other students, about what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and we can go through the application process again. It happens every year, so we can try. I'm just being real honest with you guys. The only school I think might even have a chance of qualifying is the junior high. Looking at the numbers and the free and reduced and the SNAP, it has the higher number. So when you add it into the mix, it might be in the threshold. But the other two
Could be harder to do.
could be harder to do. But we'll just see.
Yeah.
I can't tell you until we go through the process. And would it take Darren 2 or 3 months to do the application process with ODE?
So can we only apply one time a year? So
For
like,
CEP, yeah.
okay, so when it's done, this is the way it is for this year, and to apply for next year, when do we have to start that process?
I think March or April,
Okay.
they sent out that CEP application materials, and we have to have everything returned like some point in May or early June.
Okay.
And then they give us all of our calculations. I'm not gonna be able to tell you.
Okay.
And you can either stay with what you got, or you can take the new. So obviously we take whatever ends up being best.
Right. Right. Okay.
So, and then Darren, did you want to, there's a possibility of universal meals in Oregon. There is a pending legislation. There's a lot of support behind it. Darren can tell you COSA's behind it. I'm sure OSBA's behind it, but basically would expand universal meals in Oregon, or all kids would eat free. The problem is the price tag. I heard it's over $500 million, and I just don't know what the legislature is going to do. The nice thing about our legislature is they tend to follow in the same footsteps as some of our neighboring states, and California already passed it. They enacted universal meal, so they have it this year.
Okay.
And Washington's talking about it now too. And so Oregon may not let Washington beat us. We'll see. So
That would be so good.
And when would we find that out?
At the end of the legislative session,
Okay,
we'll find out if it's worthy. But remember, as we talked about, there's only so much money there.
right.
and I want as much as you guys do. I mean, I'm here to feed kids and stuff. I think all this paperwork is just complete.
Yeah.
And some of it. So.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
other
I got one more question
Yeah.
for you. Would it be possible, we do work sessions from time to time, and I've asked this before, would it be possible for the food service to provide our meal the next time we have a work service?
I would love to do that.
I would too.
I just
Awesome.
sat in an admin meeting today and offered to do catering for the admins rather than going to Costco or something like that. If they keep it in house, I could probably do it for less, and it keeps the money in the district and support staff. And
Sweet.
Yeah. I think it'd be a good experience. We can see exactly what the kids are, what they're eating on a daily basis. I think it'd be fabulous.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank
Any
you.
other
Thank you.
questions for me?
We have a work session next month, right?
Maybe.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Okay, plant operation manager's report, Mr. Lulay. Hi.
Good evening. It's, got a copy of my report, and I just wanted to highlight a few things on there. It was a busy year. We got quite a bit done. We had the seismic and the re-roofing and some other, the modulars and all that stuff went on. And I'd have to say it went very smooth. I worked with some pretty good companies, so we were able to just get a lot done. The coming year, I'd like to get some more, maybe some more re-roofing and replace some more HVAC units and some of the failing ones and the older ones. And we've got a couple fire alarm systems that we need to upgrade. So that'll be kind of on the plate for this coming year, along with various other items that'll come up, and we got the plans.
Joe and I have already started our list for summer. There's always a list.
Mhm.
So we've got that planned and continue to add to the list. It's always fun to have Joe come to my office because it's usually not something for like, I need a computer or two. It's like, I need an entire sewer system. I need an entire roof. When you go to Costco and it's $200 to get out of there, when Joe shows up and says, I need a few things, I'm like, oh.
They're very gracious in going through all this. A lot of it's very important for the school.
Yeah.
I think if we chip away a little at a time, we'll be able to keep things up and running in good shape.
That's quite a list. So.
Yeah, you guys got a lot.
Had a good crew. We got some good workers for it. Nolan's one of those right here.
Thanks, Joe.
And
Yeah.
Joe, you said you need to do the roof and the HVAC. What's like the number one or number two things? I mean, what roof?
The junior high, the flat roof up there, we're having tons of problems with. That would be my next big one.
Okay.
I think that one just, I mean, the price of roofing is just skyrocketed. So
Right.
that little section of roof is probably 150 grand. And these HVAC units are probably, 12 grand a piece.
Yeah.
Give or take, depending on the size.
How many did we do last year? This last summer, we did 5 or 6.
I can't remember
It
how many
says
were on
8.
there. There
Was it 8? I think we got to 8. Okay. There's probably got another 8, 12 more.
Yeah, there might be a few more. It might be more than that. There's a lot of them that are failing, and the chips or the circuit boards in them are
Right.
obsolete. And so if we can do a few at a time, we'll get back in line with some pretty good equipment.
And those are kind of the ongoing, all the time. We
Yes,
keep replacing and the painting and carpeting and all that kind of stuff
right.
too.
And there'll probably be some more carpet replacements. I mean,
Okay.
the asbestos removal is just through the roof.
Yeah.
Costs you a fortune just to take it out of one little classroom. So it's kind of limits how much you can get done.
You can actually redo a room fairly quickly for a few $1,000s. But the moment it says asbestos, that's
But
$10,000.
10 grand for a normal size classroom.
Right. So when somebody says, hey, I want my crappy carpet replaced, the first thing we kind of go is, I wonder if there's asbestos.
Let's peel it up and see what's under it.
Almost all the time there's asbestos. So then you stop and you say, okay, we need to go through that, but it really slows you down and the budget gets completed quickly.
Try to get a few every year so we can just keep up on this.
Right.
There are rooms in this building, at Turner, at Old Almsville, that really do need replacement. So we're working at trying to identify those, the very worst ones, and bring take those out. But it's also trying to get the workers. You could have a room dismantled for an entire summer, waiting for somebody to come back and clean it. So,
Any questions?
No,
Good.
that's the big-
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. High school principals report, Mr. Rasmussen.
Evening, folks.
Hi.
You have my report in front of you. Just want to highlight a couple of things. One of the things that we use for funding across the district for lots of things is the student investment account. Two small ways that we're using it here at high school. First is with our college career counselor. 2 years ago, we asked to support paying a halftime person to be a college career coach. We hired somebody last year. They did it for 1 year. They slid into a full-time teaching job. This year, we're using Mr. Tom Potacek, who was a woodshop teacher. He is retired, but we are using him to do this part-time. He's also teaching a couple classes with Debbie Lede. He is just getting started with this job because he has been mentoring our newly hired woodshop teacher the first trimester. But one of the things we're trying to do is making sure the kids have a plan going forward. Okay, making sure they know what's going on, making sure they're connecting with colleges, looking at all kinds of opportunities. He is working with Tony Walisa and looking at all kinds of opportunities. We have a job fair coming up. We're going to have a bunch of professionals in our gym February 9th. Right now, she's got over 30 different professionals coming in. It's a chance for people to go around and talk to different industry professionals. Tom is a part of that as well. You can see we're remodeling the space here as a space for him to meet. We do not have a space for him. We're out of space in high school, so we're taking every alcove we can. Tom and the maintenance department have been doing a fabulous job getting that ready. So kids can quit the county library, go back there, meet him. He meets with small groups. But in reality, he's just getting started because he was mentoring our woodshop teacher for all of first trimester, who was new to teaching, but not new to the industry. So. And then secondly, we just hired a campus security monitor. His first day was today, and we got to show him around and talk about that. We're also using the SIA funds for that. 99% of his time will probably be here on this campus. He's going to work kind of a later shift from like 9:30 to 6, helping make sure after schools get locked, kids get to where they're supposed to be, kids get picked up from practices. He will also shift his schedule on game nights. When we have basketball games or football games, he'll be here as well. Not going to be the heavy, it's going to be the relationship builder, communicator. He'll refer issues to us, school administrators, Mrs. Lede. He's also on call for elementaries. If they have an event at their school where they'd like an extra set of eyes, a public event or something, like somebody to move around, he'll be available for that as well. And the same thing for our COC on West Dayton Road. So we're excited to have that. His name is Eric Nickerson. Should be a good opportunity for us to continue to do it. We are one of the few schools who have had nothing. High schools. Silverton High School has 2 SROs and 2 campus monitors. So they have 4 individuals supervising just the high school. So we just now have 1 campus monitor for our junior high and high school together. So
Does he wear something saying?
We don't know what he's going to do yet. We'll figure something out. But, he's not going to carry a taser. He's not going to carry anything like that. He's just going to be out making relationships, carry a walkie-talkie with him. We're working on that process by communication. Right now, the junior high uses a different walkie than we do. So we'll figure out that. But
you guys got to get him some swag, man. He's walking around the University of Washington. So
I know he's a Washington fan. So it shows up.
Margaret was really happy about it.
There were a few people all jacked up to see him, but most people are like, "What? Wrong state, buddy." Anyway, so we're excited to have that. I think that's just one more step.
Does he have an office?
That's the second piece. I said, do I have someplace to lay my stuff? And we really don't have that yet. So we're flying by the seat of our pants on this. We talked about letting him use one of the golf carts after school, cruise around the parking lots. We'll probably do that for sure, especially when the weather is nice. But we'll find a place for him to land, so to speak, when we come during each day. So we'll cross that bridge. And the second thing, in addition to my report, is obviously this school year, the high school has been difficult. Losing a teacher, losing a Cascade senior who was mostly at high school and has recently transitioned to the COC, and then losing a recent grad who graduated last year. So lots of needs, lots of chances to talk to kids and staff. So Mr. Bowman, one of our Avid teachers, has designed a Cascade strong shirt. And he came up with this. He has started a t-shirt business. And all of our staff have been given this. We're going to be wearing this on Friday. And we wanted to make sure you guys had one in honor of board appreciation. We appreciate all you guys do, the volunteering of your time and commitment and thoughts and efforts and mental stress you have to put up with. We thank you for your efforts. So I have a few different sizes here. I'll leave them on the table. And if I'm missing a size, let me know. I try to just get a variety.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
It's not something you've discussed, but it's about the Chemeketa part of this.
Yeah.
How many students do we have that participate in the program?
In the college credit now?
Yes.
I will get you the exact number, but I believe the number last year was 130.
Okay.
But I will get you exact numbers next time.
Okay. And that's like 130 individual, like not
Individual
one
students,
kid takes
and then
3
they
of
can
them.
take a variety of multiple classes,
Okay.
whatever we offer.
Okay.
Most years it's just one, but they're like the health class is traditionally a junior class. If they're a junior, they can also take miscellaneous English, so they could earn 2 classes that year. Senior is again English, so that's Miss Fleener. The pre-apprenticeship program Mr. Iverson is doing is really all 4 years possible.
Okay.
They do that. So there's a variety. We'd like to expand that. Chemeketa is pretty restrictive as to who's allowed to do that. They want you to take post-grad classes in that specific area, and most teachers aren't certified that way. They get their baccalaureate in their specific area, then they go get an MAT, a Master of Teaching. And Chemeketa wants to reverse. They want you to have your advanced classes in your graduate work. So very few people get to qualify to teach on their program. One of the reasons we're expanding the AP offerings, and we've added several classes in the last 2 years, and we're excited about that. That is a little harder because the kids have to pass the test, whereas on college credit now, you pass the class, you get the credit for Chemeketa. But our kids do fairly well in the AP tests as well.
Okay.
Other question?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was it Tom who was working the part-time with the kids where their careers are gonna go?
Yes, Tom Potacek, yeah.
Are the kids required to go meet with him? Like if you're a junior or a senior, it's like, or highly suggested?
Our
What does
ultimate
that
goal
look
is
like?
that he will make contact with every senior. We're not totally sure if halftime is enough to make multiple contacts with all seniors and juniors, but for sure seniors, he's going to touch base with each senior at least once, especially given the fact he didn't get a chance to really start until this training this year. But yes, our goal is usually 3 times for seniors and at least once for juniors. I don't know if halftime is enough for that.
Right, so a lot of focus on seniors right now.
Yeah, exactly. Seniors for sure, making sure they have plans, making sure they're doing that. We are requiring seniors this year to fill out the FAFSA form for their exit interview. And a lot of kids say, well, I'm not going to go to college, and that's okay. It's an exercise in filling out a government form, which we'll all fill out one of those in our lives. And secondly, you never know what might happen. Some diesel tech school might take federal aid, and you'll need to fill out a FAFSA form. So we're going to get a little pushback from that. But one thing we'll do is some families aren't excited about filling that form out. But if the kid does their part and submits it, we'll get an email back saying the student has an incomplete application, and that'll be good enough for us to show us that they've started that process. We expect a few families will probably push back on that because you have to open up your financials. Those of you who've done it, you're telling them all of your gross adjusted pay and all that kind of stuff. So.
They already know it though.
They do, but we still get pushback. So.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, questions? Any others?
I love it all.
Okay. Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Junior high principals report, Ms. Liddy.
Good evening. I will throw a major thumbs up to Tom Potacek. I have a senior and he's already reached out to my kiddo, and anytime Brett has a question that he emails Tom, he gets right back to him, or if he doesn't know the answer, he's been quick to respond or at least look for the answer. So that's been a nice on having, this is my 3rd one through, who has questions and is at least willing to ask the questions instead of wait till after the fact and then, oh, I didn't know. it's been great. The one thing I'm going to talk about in the junior high is that we have a definite positive culture going, and it feels really good in our building. The last couple of years, COVID and everything, it felt stressed, and the kids felt it, we felt it, and it's been a, it's junior high is a rough climate anyways, but the last year has been great. Lots of positivities. We're making lots of positive connections, and we all know that junior hires need just many positive connections and in-person connections. The life online wasn't our best, and we've learned a lot from that. And I was trying to do the math as I was coming here, and I think 27 of my 42 staff members are connecting with kids in some format, one way or another, either during lunchtime activities. Our new fire teacher, she decided let's do karaoke. So kids are going in there and singing, and kids that you would not think do karaoke, they're in there singing. I've seen Steve Ball in there a couple of times singing karaoke too, so that's great. I have 2 teachers who run a lunchtime homework activity, or just a quiet place. My 2 counselors are opening up in the next couple of weeks a friendship group for kids who are needing to make more connections. 2 of my special ed teachers are wanting to do board games in the classrooms, and this is just at lunch, along with Mrs. Thompson and Mr. Lovell doing intramurals. We had dodgeball. We are now doing basketball. So just in lunchtime, lots and lots of opportunities. And then after school, we have the regular sports that Mr. Nolan's in charge of. Plus, we have fishing club. We have choir, we have the drama, we have, you name it, we've had multiple opportunities. We have a gaming club, and Mr. Rosa, who's our counselor, is a couple times a year planning on doing big tournaments and getting kiddos in. We're even inviting Staten over to have some big video gaming tournament. I don't know what it's all about, but the kids are very excited about it. They have $5 and they get as much pizza and junk food as they want. So it's a win-win. So just lots of opportunities to connect. I threw out a Google form for kiddos to respond to see, okay, how are we doing? How many of you are participating? And what are some other things that you would like to see? And of the 200 and some kiddos that responded, 85% of them are participated in some avenue, one way or another. And then they gave options of what they would like to see. More dodgeball. They love throwing balls at other people. The right before Christmas, we actually had a dodgeball game, staff versus students. I'm not sure who had more fun throwing balls at each other, but it was a win-win. The kids say that they won, but they ended up having like about 40 more kids join the game at some point. So it was like 70 versus 30. So I'm not really sure we truly won in that. They wanted to see baseball or softball, more volleyball after school, do-it-yourself crafts. And so I kind of threw out the most popular ones to staff, and a lot of people then stepped up. My nurses are like, can we do a do-it-yourself crafting night? So somebody wanted to do painting. Dave Schletty's now going to do a painting night for our kiddos. So I just really appreciate the staff being willing to step up, and they realize how important connections are, and they're stepping up and volunteering, their time, and, being willing to give up their own family time to be there for our kids. So I appreciate that. And, we have one more way to connect with our outside community. Chris has agreed to let us do Senior Citizen Valentine's Day. We normally did our luncheon at Thanksgiving, but miscommunication and everything, new people in position. So we decided, let's do it for Valentine's Day. And so he decided maybe on the audit day, it's probably not our best day to do it. So we're going to do it February 10th and invite grandmas and grandpas, and then try to hook up with Turner Retirement and have some of our leadership kids and avid kids adopt a grandparent for the day. So yeah, so we're looking forward to this, and just a definite positive change in things. So it's been good. Yeah. Any questions?
Where do they go fishing?
All over the place. He took a group over to the LC. He's going to Wilson's Creek this next weekend. He's hit the Omsville ponds. He's hit Turner. He kind of threw, Steve Ball.
Yeah. Okay.
He's thrown out kind of a, no pun intended, a net. And a lot of local places have said, we have a fishing place right on our property, so you're welcome to come and use that. Yes. So it's been great. The number of kids who want to participate has been great. Just kiddos that you wouldn't normally see doing things are stepping up, and this is a nice way to and make connections.
Good.
So yeah, it's been good.
That's really good because it's really an off the wall thing for a school to do.
Yes, and multiple other school districts have actually called Stephen, how did you get this going and everything? And the donations he's received, some guy from Portland met him at Crawford Crossing and brought like 10 brand new fishing poles, brand spanking new, never been touched, you know. So it's been truly an amazing outreach. So
Great.
yeah, it's been good.
Good.
And the other cool part is that a lot of parents are joining in. I know he took them up to Detroit and they limited out, those kiddos did. I've never seen so many fish right before the weather turned. And so many parents and grandparents were up there helping their kids. So it was just additional other good connections and positive memories for kids to make. So
That's awesome.
it was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great pictures. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Elementary principals report, Cloverdale Elementary, Mr. Dyer.
Hey, good evening, everybody. How's it going today?
Good, how are
Or
you?
tonight, I guess. I wanted to, first off, just say thank you guys. I know it's Board Appreciation Month. And I'm going to talk about a lot of things, about good things going on at Cloverdale. And I really just want to reiterate, just emphasize the fact that we can't do that without your guys' support, but also just allowing us to be us. You guys are very supportive. You guys are always asking, hey, what can we do for you? What can we do to support? And that means everything, because that really does trickle down, trickle down effect coming down. It really does help, because I think that goes to Mr. Drill, and then that comes to us as myself as being the leader of the school, and then down to the teachers in that way. And so when we run staff meetings, when I talk to the staff, I really push letting the teachers be themselves and do what they need to do for their kids. But again, so I'm going to talk a lot of really good things going on at Cloverdale. But again, I really do want to say it starts with you guys, with your level of support and just letting us be us and doing what we do. I want to show you a couple of things. I want to start off by saying that, and I've been kind of learning to be like, sometimes you never want to say like it's really quiet or things are really good, because you don't want to jinx it or anything like that. But overall, Cloverdale, I feel is really healthy right now. State testing last year, we were anywhere, I think on average 15, almost in some categories 18% higher than the state average in math, writing, ELA, science. Our attendance was up. We have great attendance rate, which is a huge thanks to Ann Yunker. And so this is just a report card there. Then I sat back and I wanted to make sure, test scores are not everything. We talk about that all the time, even good times and the bad times. It's not everything. I wanted to make sure that overall as a school that we were healthy. So I did a series of surveys. I surveyed the parents. I surveyed the kids in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. I also surveyed the teachers and the staff, every staff member, every teacher. I just wanted to make sure that we were not missing anything, and I wanted to make sure that we were healthy. When you're looking through here, just the parents, and I don't mean, I just didn't want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And, we had, I would say almost 90%, over 90%, 95% of my parents filled out the survey. So we had, I think, 85 people filled out the surveys. On average, they have a little over, average 2 kids per family. And so that's roughly 160, 165, which is almost our full population. And so everybody really filled this out. And it really, if you look at it, it just shows that we're doing great things and the parents are buying into it. They like what we're doing. There's a couple of concerns around safety, having an open campus, and some things that we need to address. Cultural diversity is something also that we want to address too. But overall, it's good. Same thing that came with the teachers and the kids. Just things are going well and we're healthy. And a lot of people ask, well, what's kind of going on and how do we get there? And, first off, it is a team effort, but I want to talk about my staff, and I have some staff members here, and I wanted more to come, but they're busy and they're tired. But at the same time, they work extremely hard, and it's not, we have the saying here, it's not luck, it's hard work. We're very targeted. It's not like they work hard, they stay late, they come early. If you go past Cloverdale on any given weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Brett would probably say there's always a car, there's always 2, 3, 4, they're just there, and they're always looking and they're planning. And they're very, like I said, that's what they do. One thing I want to say about them is that they're purposeful. Everything they do is on purpose and it's thought out. So like how they start their day, it may look a little loose or it may look a little laid back, but that's on purpose. It's for a reason. And they're setting something up later on in the day. Or maybe they start their day coming out hot, or they do, when I say coming out hot, that means they're right away, they're getting right into a lesson, and then they're going to slow down later. And that's for a reason. Or when they come back from lunch or they're coming back from recess, they're always doing something on purpose. And like even today, we were talking about small groups, and we just spent, how do we do small groups? What are we doing? How do we organize them? How long? And there's no right or wrong answer to the exact way of doing it. We just want to be thoughtful about what we do and why we do it. And so everything that the teachers are doing at the school is very purposeful, and it is very targeted. The other thing that we have going on in all the other schools is we have great intervention programs. We are able to assess all the kids. We're getting ready to do that here in about a week and a half. We will go over reading. The kids will screen every kid and see how they are doing the reading. Same in math. And then we take that data and we come back and then we really break it down. And we say that's how we make our small groups, where they go to interventions. And like what I can say right now, if the kid's struggling in reading, any kid that's struggling in reading, K through 5 is receiving at least 20 to 30 minutes of specifically designed intervention just to help them get to where they need to be. In math, where we got it down to is now is second, third, and fourth is getting the same, in 5th grade as well, is getting the same thing. Not so much in K1 yet, but we're moving that direction. But we are doing some small groups there. And that takes a lot of work. That's a lot of discussions, a lot of different things. We're kind of moving in that direction. So that's just with the staff. But then also I want to take time to talk about our families. One thing is we have great families at Cloverdale. We do great things. I mean, we're not always perfect. We have our issues. A lot of people's like, oh, you just have all the great families and you have no issues. We have people that battle addictions. We have foster kids. We have people that are homeless, that are living in uncles and grandparents back 40 on the back 5 acres on a trailer. We have all the kids. We have a lot of that kind of stuff. But overall, one thing I have to say about our parents, they're supportive of the school and teachers. When I call a family and I say, hey, we're having trouble with Johnny, they were like, I'm so sorry, Mr. Dyer, what do we need to do to help you guys? And I can say that with a straight face, and it's so awesome that they buy into us and they do support us. Even if one of the other thing that they do, even if they disagree with it, we've really talked a lot with families, is they don't really show it in front of their kids a lot of times. And so they back us, they may disagree with us, but then they don't do that in front of their kids. And so the kids know that they need to respect us on the back end. And so don't undermine us. They're willing to work for the kids. We still do homework quite a bit. We still do big projects and we still do things like that. That's a commitment from parents. I'm sure you guys all have kids. You guys know what it's like on a Sunday night at 6 o'clock. I know I was this year. Hey, Dad, my science project is due tomorrow and we're ready to go. And we still do that. So that takes time for a parent to buy into that and do that. And like I said, doing homework an hour a night, somewhere in there, anywhere up to 5th grade is stuff that they're doing. We're also working on, if they don't have that support at home, we're working on scaffolding and doing things at school to make sure that we can help that kid get where they need to be. The other thing I love about my families is they ask tough questions, and I expect them to ask questions, and I want them to ask tough questions. Because if we don't know there's a problem going on, then we can't address it. That's why even when I did the survey, a lot of people were like, oh, you sure you want to get that? Have thick skin, it's going to come. But if I don't know there's a problem, then we can't address it and we can't deal with it. And I really want to make sure, and I love the fact that families come to me and say, hey, Mr. Dyer, I don't agree with this. I don't like this. And we'll have a conversation about it. They may not like the answer I give them, but at least we're going to have a conversation and they're going to understand why we have to do what we're going to do. And 9 times out of 10, they take it and they go, okay, we trust you. And we're going to go with that. Speaking of trust, one of the issues that we did have was this year we had, I'm going to have 2 ladies right here, which is they're just phenomenal. We had to go to a K1 blend. And then also we had to split our 5th grade class. Usually at Cloverdale, when you split a class, that's really hard because people thought they're like, oh, I'm going to go to 1st grade. I'm going to have Mrs. Rutherford. And in their mind, they have to have Mrs. Rutherford. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, you're going to have this new teacher. I'm like, I don't know who that is. And in 5th grade, we're going to have Mrs. Ramzo. I want Mrs. Ramzo. I've been waiting the past 6 years to have Mrs. Ramzo, and she's a great teacher. And now all of a sudden you're going to have Mrs. Sandon. And that's who I have. But it was so awesome. And it builds credibility with me when I split classes and we're going through. I'm like, you don't need to worry about a thing. Trust me, you're going to love it. And we got 2 great, awesome, phenomenal teachers. And they hit it out of the ballpark. I mean, it's great. After 2 weeks, I had a couple of people came in when we had the blend because they weren't sure about the blend. And I'm like, just give it a week. They came back a week later. I called them up and they're like, how's it going? They're like, it's awesome. It's phenomenal. She's just phenomenal. It's so calm in there. We're doing the same thing. Same thing with Mrs. Sanders. It's like, I have people saying this is the best year my kids have ever had. They love coming to school. They love it. And so that builds credibility with me because with them. So when I say, trust me, they're like, okay, I trust you here. Okay. Then I'm going to trust you here. And so, I can't do that without the staff that's there. And then finally the kids, I really want to talk about the kids. We don't have the kids doing what they do, they show up, they buy in, and sometimes we're hard on them and we do push them and we do make sure that we build academic stamina and we do expect a lot of them, and they show up, they work, and they buy in. And it's really, really fun to watch them learn and to attack the day in and day out. And really what I really want to say is, as you can see, we're really healthy. But again, it's not one program. It's not one thing. It's a blend of a lot of things. But again, it's the staff, all staff. It's the families, the students all coming together as one and really coming together and pushing forward. And it really, again, it's not like some magic bullet. It's not this one program. It's not that. It's a blend of everything and people coming together. But really what it really comes down to is hard work is what it ends up being. It takes work to do it. And the kids do it, the staff do it, and the parents do it, and everybody's coming together. So it's really fun. So that's it. But again, I want to say thank you. I went a little bit longer than I usually, but I just want to say thank you guys for everything. And it's been a joy. Thanks. Yep. Any questions?
No, it sounds like you're just having way too much fun.
Yeah, too much fun. Yeah. No question. Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, thanks so much for having your staff come.
Yeah.
And, I can't believe they were interested in listening to you go on that long. I would say, how long? Okay, anything after 5, you owes you something.
Sit back here and now you guys may not know this, and I will. This is where I go off. You guys, everybody gives me a hard time for talking too much or rambling on or doing whatever. But if I think we really had a stopwatch, I think Pete might have went longer than me. Or Chris went a little bit longer. Like, I don't ever think I go above and beyond for the average person. And I do like talking about that.
Let's put this, we'll put this to the test of your colleagues.
We got it on film. We can back up and check.
Thanks.
Play the music. Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for your service. And when I think of like Karen, when my husband and I came to the school district in 1999, Karen was one of the first ones to welcome us on the school board. I had your son Clinton in class. You made an incredible model of a Panama Canal that I used for years.
Yep.
And the fact that you're still here serving, and Ruth working alongside of you and giving to your community and then giving to us. So thank you so much for all that you do. So Turner Elementary, it certainly is the most challenging job that I've ever had because there's not one focus. I like to think of it, and I constantly do daily and talk with Sarah about the ABCs. And that's our academic, our behavior, and our climate, culture, and community. And I feel like the climate, culture, and community, that's in a good place. We have some wonderful things that have augmented that this year. Our behavior, Sarah put forth a behavior program this year. To have a written program that is consistent has been great. Now we're really focusing on the academics. Nationwide, about 65%, and this is shocking, of 4th graders are reading below grade level, 65% nationwide. And in large part, not to just say, hey, the next big thing in education, but for years, reading was taught wrong. And fortunately, the science of reading is not only all the rage, but we're talking about it, we're doing something. And there's 6 of us at Turner Elementary taking the letters course, which is a 2 years class in the science of reading, because our reading scores need to improve. So we just kicked off a literacy program. We're looking at it as a 3 to 5 year program to get the results that we want. And that's in large part a shout out to Molly Gailey for securing us some title funds, a rollover from last year, so that we could get our letters training in place. We could get more decodables for our school, have a literacy night, really focus on literacy. And we actually kicked that off last week at a staff meeting, and we're going to go forward with everything literacy. We're still going to continue to have a strong science program. We're also kicking off an ecology program, but we really need to be diligent and focus on everything literacy to get up those scores. May I answer any questions that you might have?
I got a question for you.
Yes.
The behavior part. Talk to me a little bit about the social emotional need. What does that mean to us? You know, it says the socio emotional needs of students are at an all-time high. What are we doing? What are we seeing different than we saw 5 years ago?
And I know Onsville could really be experts at speaking to that because they have the special programs. But from my and only short 2 years in elementary, I'm can't wait to get past the COVID excuse.
Right.
But that's given a lot right now. But also it's just screen. I mean, just the information. I mean, we have a kindergartner that the parents reported that they have 6 hours a day of screen time. Screen time has replaced active, creative play. You know, back in the old days, you go to Pioneer Park and State or the Dairy Queen Park, and it would be full of kids playing. That's where they learn how to play, how to interact, how to problem solve. They're just not there anymore. I mean, I believe even pre-COVID, it's that screen time, and it's the screens being used as babysitters and as a substitute for decent childcare that just has kids not knowing how to interact, how to regulate their emotions. I mean, we have first graders that act like toddlers. And, you know, we say words like, oh, you have big emotions, but it's like they need discipline. And unfortunately, I think it's up to the schools to provide that.
Okay.
Other questions?
No, so does that bring in extra counselors or extra, what are we doing? I mean, as a classroom teacher, it puts a huge load on you guys. I understand that.
Yeah, because you have to be able to tame them before you can teach them.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing. And that's the need. We are short in our district. I know Darren has tried to remedy this, but with the staff shortage, we're short trilling. Not all schools have those special in-depth counseling. Fortunately, with our numbers now at 417, we added a half-time counselor this year, Catherine Hinkle, who's amazing, because the needs of students are at an all-time high. And think of it this way too. When I was a kid, I mean, and maybe it's from Montana, maybe it's because of my own dysfunctional family. You didn't have anxiety. You didn't deal with your emotions. You just dealt with it, right?
Right.
But that's not the way it is today. You know, kids have these things that they're not dealing with in a productive way. And that's what I think there's a whole new set of challenges that we just didn't have when any of us were kids, with anxiety, with substance abuse in the home, legalization of drugs. I mean, I don't think it's a one compartment answer to why we're seeing this in our kids. I think it's a multi-systemic problem that some of you know a lot more about than I do. Onsville's behavior program, I know it has a lot of information about just the changes in kindergartners, right? I mean, other questions?
Thank you.
And keep it up.
All right, we got to get up those literacy scores though, and we will.
Okay.
Okay, before I can retire, we will. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion and communication, new staff recommendations. This is Montfield.
So we do have a couple of new hires. One is Jamie Salmon, elementary teacher at Cloverdale. She started out the school year being a long-term sub for the new class that Brian added at the beginning of the school year. And we have brought her on as a temporary teacher through the end of the school year. And the other is Martin Salinas, and he is high school social studies. We needed to fill Mr. Macbeth's position.
and he was a former
Yeah.
student. Yeah. So those are our 2 staff recommendations. And then we have a retirement as well. You have a retirement letter in there from Donna Croker. She will be retiring and leaving Cascade and school year. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? No.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr., can we have one request about saying thank you to you guys? Tomsville would like to, they're here, so they would like to.
By all means,
Okay.
please.
All right.
Thompson is not for this week, this month, excuse me, but we do have some goodies for you. There are some nice sweatshirts that Mrs. Cromwell and Miss Mitchell designed for us at the beginning of the year. And then there's also some handwritten cards from every grade that's important to you. So thank you so much for your work and your service to our district.
Very kind. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. We've got, where we at? 5C, board policy updates.
Second reading of all the board policies. We talked about this in November. All of these policies, almost all of these policies are a result of change from the legislative session, short session a year ago. And there's a couple in there where we've had laws or rules changed, probably based on legal action somewhere around the state. Really great question came from one of you about, are we changing any of these policies that make it unique to Cascade? And the answer to that is no. These policies basically follow Oregon School Board Association attorneys' recommendations, short of it saying something like, you can choose between that's up to the superintendent or their designee, or do we do it with version 1 or version 2 of the story? And we follow basically whatever previous version we have. So sometimes they have one version is shorter, one version has more explanation to it. That's kind of how that works. So I would recommend moving forward with the second reading, which would make these policies active for us at this point.
All right.
Questions on that?
Questions? Nope. All right. Thank you, Mr. Drill.
Yep.
5D, budget committee appointment.
We were able to we're on 5, right?
5D, yeah.
Jumping. 5D. So you guys have asked after you guys went through a process and asked Mr. Lee to join the school board in the middle of somebody's term. We moved for you guys to ask us to reach out to Chief Don Taylor. It's weird not saying chief. So we asked him to go onto the budget committee. He said yes. And so he will be joining us in May for the budget committee appointment as you requested.
Okay, 5E, WESD resolution.
Yeah, so every 2 years, the ESD, our Willamette ESD in Salem, right, represents Marion, Polk, and Yamhill County. The 21 school districts make up our region. Every 2 years, right before the legislature starts, they put together a plan that says basically, here's the information that we offer to our school district for free. Here's the different classes and the different programs we offer for a cost. And here are programs that you can buy from a third party. We then go through, we have to get that approved from you guys. I would recommend that you approve it. There are a number of things that the ESD does for free. And again, they get their money. As we talked about earlier, right? The state provides money to all school districts. There's a small percentage taken off, and the 17 ESDs, there's 3 smaller ones, get a percentage of that money so they can operate regional programs. Why would they do that? Because please understand, I have 198 school districts. We are now like 55th in size. We moved up in the world. We used to be in the 90s. We are 55th in size, but particularly districts that are 100 and lower, right? They could not afford to have an SLP. They could not afford to have a specific thing. They might need somebody for 3 hours a week, but they can't do it. So ESDs are designed for efficiency, right? So that they can share an employee that with 3 or 4 different districts that might need them just for a day. So they go through a process and say, here's all the information. We then get together with, mostly it's special education, but we have special education, communications, finance, a number of other areas where we get together in April and we actually purchase services from them. And we purchase them based on the amount of money we get based on our size. It comes from the state. This last year, I think we were right around $1.1 million. And we sit down and we sit with them and say, these are the things that we would like to buy from you. It helps them then get staff for that. And we go from there, most of which is in the special education areas. Not only do we have general education money and additional money from the state special education, we also have WESD money helps offset the cost of special education along with other areas. Questions?
What does that look like? Like, what does that help for special education look like for us?
Usually it's additional staff support. Sometimes it has something to do with, we need a number of evaluations for autism. If we have a kid that is blind or deaf of hearing, we have to go through that process. Technically, we also share time with any private school in our area because they're required by federal law to have coverage for special education. It's usually run through the public school because we have the expertise sitting in our districts to help with that process. So that's kind of how we handle that. There is a laundry list, which I will share with you in April, that we will purchase, and you'll be able to see what we can supply for.
On average, how many services do we get just off the top of your head?
Somewhere between 20 and 25 different kinds of services. Everything from finance to special education to communications to we buy we help get support with our systems for computer systems, things like that. Transportation and translation services. Thank you. Transportation as well. We used to, we don't now, but we've done almost all kinds of things.
Okay.
It's pretty amazing. And then, like I said, you don't have to buy a full position. You buy so many hours of something. We also get services for, Mr. Rasmussen mentioned we had some very unfortunate moments throughout the fall here with the loss of staff member and students. We bring in what we're called as the flight team. The WESD organizes that. So they are able to get other counselors from other districts. If we have a problem, they show up here. Usually it's for high school in this very space, and they're there to help support other staff members or other students that need help. We also send counselors to other districts if they need help. So it's kind of built that way.
So Darren, on the stuff like the package we buy or however that works, if we go over those hours, do they just charge?
They charge you extra. We always want to make sure we keep about 10% of reserve in case we need it. So for example, tonight, Ms. Johnson said, I've gone to Darren and asked, right? Sometimes we can say, hey, we set aside some money in our WESD account. And so we can use that money first before we get to our turn.
That was my next question is, do we leave it on the table at the end of the year? Are we able to?
It's over. It's ours.
It's ours. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
You don't want to roll over a lot, 5%.
Right.
Okay,
but we don't walk away from it if we don't use those services.
No.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
Any other questions? Okay, information items, coach advisor list, Mr. Burrow.
So that is our new coach advisor list updated with regard to our fall and then winter sports are added there as well, in case you need to go through it, but they're all necessary in the process.
Okay.
So for example, tonight, Ms. Leday said something about our sports process in the junior high. I think at one point there was 52 girls basketball players that required a third coach instead of just an A team and a B team. We had an A team, a B team, and we didn't call it a C team. We said an A team and two B teams. So we worked it out that way. So make sure that happened. We also had 50 some odd kids for wrestling, boys and girls. Right? Big sports in Oregon growth is girls wrestling. So that's a big growth sport. So
any questions? Okay, Willamette Career Academy. Nope, budget committee opening. Sorry.
So we got Chief Taylor to sign up, but we also are still short one more. We remember last May we had 9, not 10. So I need to ask you, how would you like us to go about that? We can go back and draw from the list of candidates that where Mr. Lee got filled in there. We had other candidates. Would you like us for us to reach out? I can work with the board chair or the vice chair or any one of you to work on that as a committee, or you can just direct me to take a look at those folks and give you the names as I connect with you and check in if you'd like. You have traditionally just appointed people to the budget committee. They have to be somebody that doesn't work at Cascade.
Okay. Why don't you and I chat about that?
Okay.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
Okay. 60 Willamette Career Academy open house.
So tomorrow is the Willamette Career Academy open house. Tony Walisa is in charge of Measure 98. This is the Willamette ESD's process where all school districts help chip in. We did that about 3 years ago, and the old Toys R Us building on Lancaster is now converted into a regional tech center, for lack of a better term. We have people, like 30, 35 kids that have touched on that. Yeah, right in there, that ballpark. Gosh, I like it when I get it right. I'm usually off a little, but thank you for saying I got it right. we have different kids in that area. We have an open house tomorrow night. Pete and his staff, myself, Karen, I think you're going to be there as well. And they are in process not only of showing off, but we are also probably showing off a little bit to legislators to suggest that they continue to help us have it funded. It is unusual in this state to have a regional tech place. So for example, Salem Kaiser School District with their size has their C-Tech support place. North Clackamas has theirs, Fort Republic has theirs. This was designed and built by a number of people in the Valley for 14 different school districts to have their kids driven there for a half day and work in various areas so they can go ahead and be already that much farther ahead. We graduated 4 kids last year there. We're going to have more kids there going. So if they say, hey, you know what? Regular school and all the process isn't quite for me. I want to be able to connect with Diesel Tech. They have a flat out, you could eat off their floor. It's so impressive there. They have medical terminology and medicals. They have all the beds there. They have cosmetology. It is impressive to show up and look around that space. Our kids go there along with Staten and Kennedy and Silverton and North Marion. As you get farther into Yamhill County, it's harder for them to get kids there in time and get them home. But that's where they found the space. It is done by school districts. It's done by private partners. Larry Katarski, who sells a lot of land in the Mid-Willamette Valley, dropped $2 million on this project so that kids could be connected. Bears Lumber up the canyon helped us with the process. They want kids to be ready to go out and be in the workforce. In our diesel mechanics, the moment they're done, the different diesel mechanics companies are like, we'll hire them before they get out. So you have a kid who's 19 or 20 years old that is ready to make $45 an hour if they're interested. So it's a really cool process. So we'll have an open house tomorrow.
Great. 60 first trimester employee recognition.
You have the first, and you are the first ones to see it. We haven't even gone out and said who they are yet. We're trying something a little bit different. So you have a list of the names. For the last 8 years, our administrators have been selecting educators, classified and certified, or just one of those, depending on the size of the building, and suggesting that these are the people who have done a great job for that trimester. We give them a thank you from you guys and myself, along with a bit of a gift card. And we follow all the IRS rules so we don't get in trouble. We try to get everybody a chance, and we want to say thank you. So I'll get out hopefully by the end of this week and say thank you and have them their gift card.
Okay.
Nice.
Excellent. Okay, 60 statement of economic interest.
So the state, in their infinite wisdom, has decided that you get to fill out a statement of economic interest because you are now an elected school board official. Jennifer and Lisa can help you with that process. I've been doing that for the last 12 years. Basically, it's like, do you have any competing or financial interest in the school district, you personally? And as I look up and down the line, I don't really think so. So it'll be a quick set of no, hit submit. And then the state will say, thank you so much for your time. And then it's on file. So it's basically an attestation that you don't have any statement of economic interest.
And is that something you're going to email to us? How are we going to get our hands on that?
So
that's fine.
we will send it, and then you're welcome to come to office or whatever.
No problem.
You can give me a call. It's a series of clicks. It takes me about 10 minutes.
Okay.
But by law now, all school board members across the state are required to fill it out.
Yay.
Fun times.
Another reason to keep this job.
Right.
6F, superintendent's evaluation plan.
So January is the beginning of that time of year for you guys to start my evaluation process. That happens in February. You have in the past have had 2 options over the, I can't believe it.
Mr. Drill, it feels like we just did this.
I know. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, brother. Over my 15 years, you have done a 360 evaluation, and you've also done me just doing a self-evaluation, turning it into you, and then we can go over it in February. My assumption, the self-evaluation I've been doing for the last 6 or 7 years is the direction you would like me to go, but that is totally up to you.
Okay. Are we good with just directing Mr. Drill to fill out the self-evaluation at this time, or do we have a different preference at this time?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, we're okay with it. Sounds good. Ruth? Yeah. Okay, if you would start working on that then, please, Mr. Drill, that would be appreciated.
We will set up a time in February. to have that evaluation meeting, and then you in March or April will report publicly to the board about your decision with regard to my contract.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Perfect.
Northwest International Student Exchange outbound to Germany.
So for a number of years now, got held up due to COVID. Thank you, COVID. We had a great exchange going on with Germany and their processing program. Jennifer Maben, our Amsterdam Elementary School teacher, has been running that for a number of years, continues to do it. We have a number of kids come in the fall. Mr. Rasmussen, I can't believe it's already happened.
13th October.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
And then we'll have 4 students going outbound to Germany for a few weeks. We need to get your just information. I have to get that to you. Actually, we don't need your approval, but we wanted to make sure, as long as we have any objections, Mrs. Maben will be connecting with that process and going with to make sure all is well with those 4 students.
With 4 students?
4 students.
Okay.
Yep. And I think there's a 3 from Staten as well. They kind of joined together.
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll find a way to get the state teachers some black. Yes, Mr. Rasmussen.
I'd like to remind the board on my report, we mentioned that the high school baseball team is seeking requests to go to Arizona for spring break. Chris Brown has some techniques already.
He has.
And so we just want to alert you to that.
I've had conversations. It will formally show up at next month's meeting in the process. So you'll see their process.
Okay. All right. We are at the point in our meeting for public comment. At this time, we had no one sign up for public comments. Correct? At this time? Okay, so do I ask if somebody wants the public comment or no? Okay, because we have to, by law now, we have to sign up prior to the board meeting. So that's where we're at. So resolutions. Come on.
All right, hang on,
All
I'm
right.
almost there. Are we ready?
Oh, I beat you? Yay.
Take my time for you.
Resolution 8A, resolution regarding new staff recommendations.
Be it further resolved that the Cascade School Board moves to approve the new hire recommendations of Jamie Sannon, Cloverdale Elementary teacher, Martin Salinas High School Social Studies teacher as recommended by administration.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the new hire recommendations of Jamie Sannon, Cloverdale Elementary teacher, and Martin Salinas High School Social Studies teacher as recommended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Resolution 8B regarding staff retirement.
Be it further resolved that the Cascade School Board moves to approve the retirement of Donna Croker at the end of the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the retirement of Donna Croker at the end of the 2022-23 school year. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 8C, resolution regarding board policy, second reading and adoption.
Be it resolved, the Cascade Board of Education moves to approve the second reading and adoption of the board policies listed below.
Then moved and seconded to approve the second reading and adoption of the board policies listed below. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 8D, resolution regarding budget committee appointment.
Be it further resolved, Cascade School Board moves to appoint Don Taylor to the Budget Committee to replace Aaron Lee for the 2020-2023 term.
I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded to appoint Don Taylor to the budget committee to replace Aaron Lee for the 2020-2023 term. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 8E, resolution regarding Willamette ESD local services plan 2023 through 2025.
Be it further resolved, the Cascade School Board moves to approve the Willamette ESD local service plan for the 2023 through 2025 school year.
Second.
Been moved and approved to approve the Willamette ESD local service plan for the 2023-2025 school years. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, future agenda items, Mr. Drill.
I think we'll continue to share with you guys the financial impact of services process. Just keeping an eye on that. The legislature, like Chris mentioned, very well could end up providing us a solution to that process. If not, we can talk about what that process is. The other thing that he did not talk about is we are now right around, I think he snuck out.
He did.
He's got a 5 o'clock call in the morning. Usually that's when he's here to start our food service process. I think we're right between $10,000 to $12,000 in charges. So again, we do not turn any kid away from food, right? But it also, we have to show that as a charge. So just in that Turner and mostly at the secondary campus, we're up to about $10,000 to $12,000 of charges that we're going to need to keep. We have yet to, and Chris has really not been interested in some school districts turn it over to collections. And I just don't think that's a wise choice. It's just not a good way to solve our problem. So there is one thing, Mr. Rasmussen loves it when I let him know, hey, if they're going to walk across the stage of graduation, they have to clear all their fees and fines. It's not a fun way to do that. I have bugged Mr. Day about it as well when they want to do promotion, but other than that, and they certainly reach out and check on families that just can't take care of that process. We deal with that other individuals.
Can we, and we've talked about this, that there's a magic wand you guys can wave to get someone in the program if they don't want to sign up themselves?
We can do some of that, but then they have to go through a process check, and we can't go back in time to fix
That's my question is, can we do it backwards? We can't back into it.
The administrators really feel like, hey, there are some people out there that we know they're struggling, but they're not filling out the form.
Right.
We can go through that.
But we can't make it go away looking backwards. It is what it is.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So we're going to keep track of that. I will keep you updated on the budget and the budgetary process. We will start our budgetary process, and we'll keep you focused and up to date on the modular movement that we have for the secondary campus, along with our seismic grant. Anything else from you guys?
Do we need to talk about that audit stuff at the next meeting, or will that take care of itself?
We're going to wait and make sure to see what happens with our Great Barrier audit, as Scott talked about back in November. But we'll make sure that, well, I'll give you an update for sure.
Good. Good.
Anything else? At this time, I call the meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Nice to see you.